pleasure to follow the Honourable Lady for Barking in what is a really critical and important debate that will affect my constituency in mid-Buckinghamshire very, very deeply. I think we've had some sensible suggestions in this debate from the backbenchers on all sides so far. I particularly support the points made on the protection of chalk streams, which is important to my constituency as well. But I do have deep, deep concerns about the tone of this bill and about some of the rhetoric that sits underneath the defence of it, that I would categorise it as being a bill that does things to communities, particularly rural communities, as opposed to with rural communities. And I would gently say to the Minister, who probably can predict some of the things I'm about to say, as we sat on the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill Committee in the last Parliament together over very, very many weeks and over many, many housing ministers in that period. However, I will not apologise for representing my constituents who time after time after time are fed up to the back teeth of losing our rural identity and our rural character with the constant flow of both housing and infrastructure projects that devastates our countryside, that devastates, in 1 second I will give way to the Honourable Gentleman, and that devastates the very rural identity of Buckinghamshire. Indeed, on new towns, before I give way to the Honourable Gentleman, those of us in Buckinghamshire feel we've probably already done our bit with a new town, and it's now a 250,000 population city called Milton Keynes. And with that, I'll give way to the Honourable Gentleman from Milton Keynes North.
I thank him for giving way. I just wanted to let him know about when I recently went to visit my 93-year-old grandmother, who was a rural constituent living in Buckinghamshire back in the 1960s. And at the time, she expressed many of the things that he just expressed about concern about a city being built around her rural community. You ask her now, and she will tell you about the fantastic opportunities that Milton Keynes gave to her children and her grandchildren, to the point where one of them is now sitting on these benches, able to get this speech and this intervention. Sometimes you do need to have change, you do need to have development, and I think that sometimes we do need to support it.
I understand the point that the Honourable Gentleman is making, and Milton Keynes is very close to me. I visit Milton Keynes all the time. I have many friends in Milton Keynes. It is a great city. It is a great city. However, there has got to be a line in the sand drawn as to the amount of our countryside, the amount of our farmland, the amount of our food-producing land that we allow to be lost to development of whatever it is. And like my honourable friend for South Leicestershire in his speech earlier, reeled off a list of things that are already happening in his constituency, where they are already playing their part. In my own constituency, whilst we have had concerns about a lot of it, there have been, and I will give way to my honourable friend in one moment, there are an enormous list of things. The amount of house building in Buckinghamshire has been extraordinary. If anyone goes to a village like Hadnam, it is unrecognisable from what it was because of the sheer volume of new house building that has gone on there, as well as incinerators, as well as we're about to get a new prison. We have built, to our objections I appreciate, but HS2 has ravaged through the middle of the constituency. It's not like Buckinghamshire hasn't done anything, to which I will give way to my honourable friend for Beaconsfield.
My honourable friend makes an excellent point. We have not only given way for infrastructure with HS2, motorways, data centres across the entire Greenbelt, with very little community consent. And now with this new bill, all community consent seems to be going out the window. And how can we protect the vital green space that provides, in my constituency, the lungs of London, that will be destroyed because everyone will want a piece of the small bits of Greenbelt we still have left?
I totally agree with my honourable friend for Beaconsfield. The point she makes is absolutely right, and it applies in my constituency as equally as it does to hers. My constituency, the backbone of our economy is agriculture. It is food production. And the more we see lost, that actually impacts. The Labour Party used to say in the manifesto that food security was national security, yet this bill seeks to build all over that very land that our farmers in Buckinghamshire and around the whole country use to produce that very food that gives us that national security. But where I really want to focus is on the infrastructure implications from the energy sector. Now, I entirely approve of transitioning to cleaner forms of energy production. But it's a point I've made in this House time and time again, and I will never get bored of saying it. You need 2,000 acres of ground-mounted solar panels to produce enough electricity for 50,000 homes on current usage. That's before everyone's got 2 Teslas on the drive. Maybe not Tesla as the brand people would choose now. However, a small modular reactor needs just 2 football pitches and will deliver enough electricity on current usage for 1 million homes. Why on earth in this country are we messing around with solar, destroying thousands of acres of food-producing land when other clean technologies are out there that can clean up our energy production, clean up our electricity production in a way that is far kinder and gentler on our national fabric and on our rural communities? It is really so important. And so when I hear the Secretary of State, as she did in her opening address, talk about protecting high-grade agricultural land, I treat that with a very large pinch of salt, because we have caught out in my constituency in Buckinghamshire those that are paid exorbitant amounts of money to come and grade the land prior to a planning application, deliberately testing the land in the headland of the field, the bit of the field that is not used to grow crops or grass or to graze animals. Of course, they are always going to get a lower land grade by testing the headland. And so if the government is serious about wanting to protect high-grade agricultural land, I would urge the Minister to actually look at measures that he could take to ensure that the fertile part of the field is tested, not the headland. I will give way to the Minister.
I appreciate the honourable gentleman giving way. Would he accept that we have to keep this matter in perspective? Even under the most ambitious scenarios, solar farms would occupy less than 1% of the UK's agricultural land. That is why the NUF President Tom Bradshaw stated in relation to solar projects and food security that it is, and I quote, important that we are not sensationalist about the impact.
The point the Minister makes is one that certainly in Buckinghamshire I would challenge. Actually, there was a very good cross-party, I don't think any Labour members were there, but there was a very good cross-party meeting a couple of weeks ago on the scale of solar projects coming into this country, and it is very disproportionate on rural communities that this bill does seem to take against in favour of the towns and cities of the United Kingdom. And I would also equally say, to the honourable gentleman, that on top of the stats that I gave earlier about the efficiency of solar, scientists came here, not just campaigners, but scientists came here to give clear evidence that of all the countries in the world, there is only one less suitable for solar than ours, and that is Iceland. So it's not even, like the government is making the case for a technology that is particularly suited to the United Kingdom. Yet they're trying in this bill to just make it easier, to just make those that object, who challenge on any level, to go away and just have to suck it up and take those projects in their backyard. This bill does take away local control. And for me, local control will always be the most important part of the planning process. For a community that actually knows those fields that, unlike the desktop exercise that's done afar, that actually knows the fields that flood every single year, that knows the local factors that would impact a planning application, that understands the local roads that would have to take the construction traffic, that get churned up every time a development comes along, and knows how unsuitable they are. Local control is critical, and I urge the Minister, even at this late hour, to go back and to really think about whether what he wants to do is simply ride roughshod over local opinion.